Hi there guys, my name is Elvio from Ultra Remaps, and today we're going to be test driving and reviewing the legendary BMW M3 E46. I'm going to be telling you what I like about it and what I don't. We're also going to be comparing it to the Laguna Seca, which is slightly modified and is a manual gearbox instead of SMG. So here we are guys, we're in this BMW M3 CS. As you're probably aware, it shares a lot of components with the CSL. We're talking stuff like brakes, suspension, and the faster steering rack, which really shows. It's got 338 bhp, engine at the front, rear wheel drive, typical BMW recipe for an M car, NA engine, and it just loves to rev, it really does. First impressions, it's such a mechanical feeling in here. It's like you can feel the wheels moving and everything coming together in perfect harmony. It's the essence of driving, it really is. It's just so addictive. I can keep on going and going and going. The mechanical sensation in here is it's like nothing else. Literally, you feel at one with the car. You know where the front wheels are, you know where the rear of the car is. I love it. So the cabin, I love the simplicity in here. You got a double dim CD player, you got wing mirrors that flip up and down, you got a sunshade at the rear. Literally, whoever spec'd this car ticked every single box on the spec book. The engine in this car is an absolute masterpiece. Still going, still going, still going. And then you change gear and do it all over again if the road allows it. It's fantastic. It doesn't have a lot of torque low down, but because the gears are so long and all the theatre happens high up. And I personally believe that engines are more fun when you're closer to the red line. If you got power in abundance like modern cars do, you're not really going to use it much of the time. In here, you use the power more often. You can redline 1 or 2 gears without getting in trouble in roads like this, and that's fun. Oh, listen to the rasp of that exhaust. The gears just never end. RPM of 8,500, you could really let it scream. Look at this silky smooth acceleration. Red line, another gear. Red line, another gear. It's just, I could do that all day long. You get that clonk from the back as well. I love it. The sashi is absolutely sublime. It's not like the Porsche I test drove the other day on the channel. The Porsche had more steering feel. This is more of a package. It's sashi feel. The steering's direct, don't get me wrong, but it's more of a package. How it just, it defies physics how good this sashi is. It really does. I can't add any more praise to the S54 engine. What I can say is that people are running these cars around the Nürburgring in under 7.5 minutes. And as we know, you can't get too much more power out of this S54 engine. Maybe 360, 370, that's about as far as you can get out of it. And I think it's a testament to how good of a package these cars are, that people are running under 7.5 minutes. Obviously set up for the track, a bit of weight loss, etc. But that's an impressive time for a car that was built and designed almost 25 years ago. Now it's time to talk about the famous or infamous SMG gearbox. I quite like it. I mean, it makes me want to change gears just for fun. You get that thump from the back of the car. Probably not good for the subframe, but it feels raw. Single clutch gearbox, kick at the back of the head. It's as good as any. Obviously, as an automatic gearbox, it doesn't really work. The way to see it is a manual gearbox without a clutch. And once you understand it, it works perfectly fine. Absolutely ferocious. When you are driving in traffic, it is a bit clunky and it shows its age, I agree. But when you're on roads like this, there's no complaints from me. It just makes me change gears just for fun, just to hear that rasp of the exhaust. I've changed gears about 4 times in like 3 seconds, just because I can. The first car to have a paddle shift gearbox was a Ferrari 355 in 1997. So at the time this car came out in 2000, 2001, this was fairly new technology. BMW invested hard on paddle shift gearboxes because they predicted in the future we'd all be driving them. And they were right. Over 90% of sales figures for BMW M4s were automatic. I think that this gearbox is so period correct. I mean, you couldn't take this gearbox and put it on a new BMW M2. It just wouldn't work. Because the chassis and the brakes and everything and the steering, the tingle for your hands, in here, it works. It's not as bad as people make it sound. It really does work well in here. What makes this car so special to me? This is my very own. I bought this car 5 years ago just because they didn't make many CSs and I like the appeal of owning a CS. And at the time the compromise was that I had to have a paddle shift gearbox. Have I regretted my decision? No, I don't think I have. I love the car. So here we are, guys. We are in the manual M3. So the modifications to this car, we're talking straight through pipe, Hammond exhaust, which I believe is fairly rare. We're talking lightweight flywheel, induction kit, and a remap done by us, and that's about it. So what are the differences? Well, it just pulls so much harder. The whole I know I've sang all the praises to the S54, but this has improved it. It pulls so much harder, and I'm a bit of a purist. I like cars in a standard form, but like, just nothing to say about the way it pulls. It's improved it. It's not even up for debate. I can feel the steering's a bit slower in comparison to the CS, but we already knew that. So the brakes work okay on these roads. If you want to do some track work, you'd have to upgrade them because they will create brake fade, but they work pretty fine. The interior is a complete opposite to the CS. This is, I want to say, a poor man's spec. There is no options ticked on this car. And the CS looks better. The trims on the CS look better. I personally don't like these trims. The single dim CD player's got an aftermarket one in here. The CS does look better, but this car has the fundamentals that make it special. We still have the same engine, we still have the same chassis, and that's all we need, really. So the all famous manual gearbox. The first time I drove an E46 was about 14 years ago, and that was an SMG. And at the time, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a great gearbox. But due to reading online, I thought the manual gearbox was going to be an absolute masterpiece. I thought the gears were going to click into place like they do in an S2000 or RX-8 or even an R8, which I'll be test driving on this channel. But it's not. The gear stick is long, the throw is long and sloppy. There's nothing masterpiece about it in terms of mechanical sensation. And to be honest, on roads like this, the SMG is better. The gear changes are continuous, they're fast, ferocious. But in saying that, I've told you guys everything I like about the SMG gearbox. I haven't told you what I don't like about it. I don't like the fact that it doesn't work as an automatic gearbox. I don't like the fact that when you're trying to park the car, you have to use the accelerator pedal like a clutch. I don't like the fact that when you're on the hill and you're engaged in first gear, it rolls back. So if I had to pick between these two gearboxes today, it would be a manual gearbox. It adds to the character of the car. You know, the whole point of a manual gearbox is that you're always doing something. You're putting an input in. That's part of driving the car. And me personally, I think changing gears is an art. It's an event. It's a synchronization between your leg and the throw and the trying to get it right. And when you get it right, it's just so rewarding. And the biggest difference between these gearboxes is that in the future, a manual is always just going to be a manual. You can't over-engineer a manual gearbox. This is the essence of driving. And with the SMG in 5 to 10 years time, if we're still allowed to drive these cars, it's going to feel like an even older gearbox. And when we say stuff like period correct and character, what does it actually mean? It means it's not great, unfortunately. But the fact that there is a conversation to be had between the manual and the SMG, it shows it's not that bad. Because on the Porsche I test drove on this channel, you don't want the Triptronic. It makes the car slower. On the R8 I'm going to test drive on this channel, the Gen 1, what makes the car special is the manual gearbox, in my opinion. So the fact that a conversation can be had about these gearboxes, and it is down to personal preference, should I say, it's not that bad. Look at the exterior on this car. I mean, for 25 years old, this is a 51 plate. I can't think of many cars that look better than this. This Laguna Seca blue really, really suits it. And you know, you get some cars that it's certain angles that you like. You know, you might like the back of a certain car and the side of a certain car, but this has it all in one. I can't think of a better car from this era that looks this good. Obviously, looks are subjective, and that's just my opinion. But let me know what you think in the comments below. I think it looks fantastic. What I don't like about the modifications. Well, on roads like this, there's nothing I don't like about the modifications. The organic clutch works well. The gear throw is very good. It feels great. This has got a short shift gearbox. Well, gear stick, should I say, which is much better than the original. The gears are direct. They change well. In these roads, it works fine. Now, the fact that it doesn't have the cat in traffic, even on the way here, is a bit annoying for my part. The clutch, you need 2 left feet to press this clutch. It's really that hard. Yes, on roads like this is okay, but when you're driving in traffic, on the way here today, I thought I pressed the clutch in and the car stalled. I didn't press it hard enough, and that happened 3 or 4 times. But except for that, there's nothing else to like. They've improved the car. I don't like the fact that the exhaust doesn't have that distinctive M3 rasp that you get on an E46, but you can live with it. You get more noise in return. Listen to it. It's not quite the same for me. I prefer the rasp. So how does it compare to other cars, say an E92 M3? Well, they're completely different cars. I've never driven a automatic E92, but I've driven countless manuals. I've even crashed the E92, unfortunately, at Silverstone before. And around the track, the E46 in standard versus standard is faster. It's more composed. It has more handling abilities. And on the road, it's just more raw. You get more raw power, more mechanical sensation. I mean, cars that were built in the 90s or the early 2000s were very, very raw cars. And then when we got to the late 2010s, that sensation, that mechanical feel sort of died down a bit, if that makes sense. So if we're going to compare, I think the E46 has better driving dynamics. It's more raw. It's a completely different car. Now, I do agree that the E92 is more refined. You got adaptive dampers in there. You got more tech. The problem with tech for me in cars is that tech gets old quick compared to cars. And what I mean by that, the E46 come out at the same time as the Nokia 3310. Imagine we had tech in here. How would that feel like? I like it the way it is. Will an E46 M3 be a future classic? Well, prices for the CSL dropped as low as £15,000 to £20,000, and the prices for a base model dropped as low as £5,000 to £6,000, £7,000. Now, I'll leave you guys with a story on that. So, once someone told me that these were cancel estate cars, and because I've always been a fan, I took offence. But what he meant by that is that they dropped as low as £5,000 to £6,000 for a car with over 300 bhp. So they could be seen in cancel estates doing donuts. And I bought my first E46 about 13 years ago, and I did my fair share of donuts around my cancel estate. So now we know where these cars started. Very, very well regarded. We know where they went. We don't know where they're going, but I tell you what other car was a cancel estate car. All Ford Cosworths ever made. And we know where they've gone. This engine's just an absolute masterpiece. I know I've already banged on about the engine and sang all its praises, but I will say one last thing. The E46 M3 won the Engine of the Year award for all its production, 6 years running. And you may think that there wasn't a lot of competition, but there was. We're talking every single Porsche engine made in that era. We're talking the Ferrari 360, and this one, it's that good. I truly believe that the E46 M3 is the ultimate sports car. And what I mean by that, it's got most of the attributes that can be found in other cars. It's almost like a greatest hits. So we got sashi that's second to none. We got steering to rival even Porsches. We got all the elements that make a hot hatch hot. I'm talking stuff like 5 seats, space for a few suitcases in the back, and an engine like a pit bull, always raring to go. All of that with this exterior. It's the ultimate car for me. I'm just going to shut up and enjoy this road.